Welcome back, welcome back. It's the Insiders Podcast. It's Matt speaking. Tonight, Darren won't be joining us, but I am joined by a very special guest in the head of Team GB Surfing, Joel Gray. Absolute legend, been on the podcast before, and he's joined me tonight to talk about El Salvador and the upcoming event for the ISA Games and where that stands for British surfing and how the whole thing works as well, because the repecharges and everything like that is absolutely mental to get your head around. So this is me chatting with Joel. Just before we head into that, I just want to say a huge shout out to DB Journey and Board Shop. I got a new sick board bag today that's adjustable in length for my mid-length, and I'm absolutely stoked on that, and super stoked on the fact that Need Essentials have sent me some summer wetsuits to test out and try. We'll be giving you some updates on that, but a massive thanks to Need Essentials for sorting me out for some new neoprene. Anyway, here's me and Joel chatting. I hope you enjoy, and Dazzle will be back soon with some more classics. Hello, bud.
How we doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Yourself?
Not too bad. Another sunny day down in Cornwall here.
Yeah, it's sunny here. It's flat as anything, but it's sunny, so can't complain too much.
I think we've still got a bit of a wave today, but
Yeah, I'm
getting to grips with the whole new surf line thing.
yeah, I know. Tell me about it. I'm clarking for a wave, and it's just been flat here for ages.
Okay.
But,
Um,
so
what
Daz,
is
Daz,
Dazza coming in?
he was meant to. He's got some problems with a yoga instructor or something at his camp, so he said just go ahead without him. He's here in spirit.
Oh man. Okay. No, that's fine. I'd love to know what the problems are with his yoga instructor. I like to think they've got stuck in like a super tricky downward dog or something. Just got
Yeah,
like
same.
all over body cramp. They need
Yeah,
Darren to come and untangle them.
he yeah, he was saying, what did he say? He said he was calling himself apparently they're under the weather after working a week, their first week of the year or something. So that's his problems when he gets back up and running. He it's Darren, you know Darren.
Yeah, cool man. Well, it was like a bit, I feel like I left Darren with like a GB surfing one of my tops after that week we did. So I feel like he's sort of part of our little ISA journey. You know, obviously
Oh,
we did our selection camp down there, and he was all frothing on it, I think. And he was like, "Oh, get us one of those t-shirts, mate." I wonder if he's wandering around with a British surfing team t-shirt on or not.
probably, probably. He's probably claiming it, probably saying he was the selection committee. He he does feel like I feel like it was like quite intriguing for him. Like he's probably frothing on how good the level was. Like he said he had some real good chats with Stan and Lucas, and um he could barely understand Pat and things like that. So um yeah, he said it was a sick week.
Yeah, it was a good one, man. So that week we did down there was it wasn't quite a week. It was like a bit shorter, and that was our like selection camp. So the process for us British surfing for the ISAs was selected essentially a long list of like 5 or 6 surfers, and then that was kind of the final chance. So we did I
Yeah.
think it was probably like 4 full days, and based out obviously Darren's camp there, which was super cool. And actually, it was pretty good for me. Like I was worried that it was going to be like 2 to 3 foot and clean, like easy access surf, and kind of it can get pretty busy. But it was reality was the waves weren't that good. We had a bit of wind, but there was waves. But you know, it created a much better environment to get to work.
Yeah, and
We
I
did,
guess it may,
yeah.
guess that
Sorry, man.
makes it I guess that makes it a bit more realistic as well. Like in El Salvador, especially, and other places that they're going to go, you don't get waves to order, and you know you get your you get the main peak and then you get moved for repechage heats, and sometimes you're on when it's like high tide or low tide. So it's kind of good that you didn't get like waves to order as such.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it would in an ideal world, we would have had waves that replicate El Salvador a bit better, which you could have got. There's sort of like there's essentially two waves out there where the venue is a sort of big deep water, long peeling right, multiple turn, which could be like on those big low tide banks in Osago zone, and
Yeah.
then like more high tide with a big strong end section kind of thing, left-hander. But more for, like we're running heats and trying to do different drills. If we're looking at that sort of stuff, you just don't want a real crowded, busy lineup, which it can be. But we did good, man. We did good, and named the team, which is not super straightforward because there's pretty good strength and depth there. But we've basically got Pat, Stan, and Luke. Pat Langdon Dock, Stan, Norman, and Luke Dillon for the guys. Yeah. And then Alice Barton, Victoria Farmer, and Lucy Campbell for the women.
Yeah.
And we go in a couple of days, and it all starts soon, like next week.
And just so I understand, and like other people listening understand as well. So on the selection side of things, ultimately there's no guidelines. There's no like there wasn't like, for example, Luke won the British Championship. That didn't get him qualified. Same as Pat winning the Welsh. It was more like obviously that performance is great, but ultimately the decision still comes down to you and what you see and how they perform.
No, not really. There was like a written down criteria. So there was
right.
relatively tight criteria to get into that bigger sort of squad. And then that was whittled down. So the final decision was like a panel. There's like a 5-person panel, like, and it went off essentially a blend of the original reason why they made the squad plus what happened on that France week.
Right, yeah. Okay,
actually,
cool.
Pat and Alice, there was for this year's one, there was another sort of bit of the criteria that they were already in by virtue of the fact that they were the highest ranked on the QS.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And we've just been working on the criteria for the next one. So the ISA, normally they leave it really late, but probably because of all the Olympic pressures, they've actually named the next one. So 2024 event is in February in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. So we've got a criteria kind of ready to go. That'll drop the next week or two.
Me and 2 or 3 days ago, me and Darren spoke to Didier Piter. Might have just absolutely scrambled that pronunciation, but he's the German version of you, basically. And he was telling us about that Puerto Rico's now been announced and that their plan, like they've got plans to, get out there early and to tackle it as well, which is pretty cool. It's probably nicer to have more notice on it so you can plan around it and stuff.
Yeah, definitely, man. Big time. And we're like a fresh organization, British Surfing, and I can go in more depth if you want, but like our funding is, we haven't just got a pot of money we can spend however we want. It's like UK sport and it's progression funding. So it's not a world-class program and it's long-term. So whilst we can spend money on these ISAs, which we are, they're not the big goal, if that makes sense. Obviously, everyone involved, like the team and the coaches and the staff and the surfers at this event and the next one in 2024 have got high aims and expectations. But in terms of resources, like from what I understand, we're probably in a different situation with the Germans.
Yeah,
like they are able to put more resources in. They are going. I know they've been El Salvador a few times, right? Training camps, selection camps. They'll probably do pre-stuff in Puerto Rico, but we're a little bit more restricted with the funding that we've got.
hence you going to France to do your selection and to try and replicate the conditions down there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like, I guess in an ideal world, like we would have done, a selection camp out in El Salvador, but
Yeah,
that would have
yeah, obviously, like bottomless
blown
pit.
the budget for the next
Yeah.
one, and quite the priority. We've slightly got to prove a few things first.
So that was my next question then. So how does that pot get deeper, get bigger? Is it like someone like Pat going and finishing fifth? Like, because obviously, like, what was it? The last game or the last time it was in El Salvador, I think it was El Salvador, like Leon Glatzer representing Germany went nuts. So yeah,
We're good if we got one of them. But yeah, so in terms of the qualification, I get the question. Your question was about money, though, wasn't it? So
yeah,
the reality is the money that we have is long term. So we've been putting on a few camps and development training things, and obviously working on selection policies and doing these ISA events. But also, there's been a bunch of work on the strategy document. So actually, what are we going to do, and what are the aims, and that all goes towards LA 28 and
right,
even
yeah,
2032. The reality is that the investment from UK Sport is more to help create a system and the pathways for that long term. If us qualifying in Paris is going to help that, then that's sort of the reason why we're
yeah,
getting it here. But yeah, like this in terms of the Olympics. So there's two more qualifying events for Paris, and the obviously that the Olympic venue is Tahiti, which is pretty exciting. And the last two qualifying events are this one and then that one in Puerto Rico. And there's slightly different sort of scenarios, but for us, it's this one in El Salvador, the highest place European gets a spot.
yeah,
So that's like an achievable target for us.
yeah. That's
What
that's
we're
exactly
going for.
yeah. That's what Didier explained to me, which is something I didn't know because I find the ISAs and the Olympic thing as an outsider looking in so confusing with repechage and qualifications and all of that jazz, and so many countries involved. And yeah, Didier like kindly explained that basically he doesn't care what Brazil do, he doesn't care what Australia do and what America do. It's like it's him against you, or yeah, him against the UK, Spain, Portugal. Um, which as soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, so it's a much more like it's not an even playing field because, like you say, there's countries that have more funding and more advanced systems because of where they are and who they are. But it definitely, if I'm, say, for example, I'm Luke or Stan or Pat, you look at who you could potentially beat and you kind of definitely back yourself a bit more than if you've got to beat Gabby.
Yeah, and everyone's in the same pot together. That's what's like kind of interesting. So it's not like it's a European champs and you've got to win it. It's
Mm,
like, but you're in amongst all of those, and yeah, we'll have like a John or Toledo in some of our heats, but so will the French and so will the Portuguese and our other European competitors. So people are getting big heats and bomb dropped from early rounds, and
yeah,
it's a hard one. Obviously, if you make the final, you're going to be looking really good, but it is a pretty hard one to sort of predict how far you kind of need to get in terms of
yeah,
yeah, we don't, it's not like you win the, I mean, if you win the event you win, yeah, but you
yeah,
actually just place higher than all the other Europeans.
yeah. Have you had any like thoughts about like say for example like in a heat you get drawn against like Gabby or Isla or Philippe or John or whatever, where obviously like previously they've turned up and just not even paddled out. Do you kind of, in a way, hope you get someone like that because it's almost like if one
Yeah,
less
maybe,
person to
and
beat?
they're quite clever, like the ISA, the way they've done it. So this year, potentially, there's a bit of that. but like last year's one was the one in California that we went to. There
Yeah.
was a spot for the highest placed team.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's potentially an extra spot for them. So there's an incentive for the big guys
Yeah.
to turn up and get a team result. Now that's in place again in Puerto Rico. So
Right. Yeah.
the Brazilians, like even dudes who've already qualified, will be, all those top nations will be in it trying to get
Yeah.
an extra team spot. But this year, yeah, going back to what you said, there's a bit of potential for that, I suppose.
Mm.
But it is scheduled, they've scheduled it right in between. It's essentially straight after the wave pool and their El Salvador event, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They're trying to make sure, and obviously since the Olympic inclusion things happened at ISA, this event for sure has grown in stature and importance and everything.
Yeah. Well, because it's kind of like it's how America see like they might try and get Kelly into it, isn't it, and stuff like that because he's not finishing in the top two American men, is he? So, if they
Yeah,
get,
and I do see that. I do see that like happening. They'll go hard for. Well, I do see that potentially happening. 2024 Puerto Rico, USA will be going for the top men's USA spot to get an extra place.
yeah,
And Kelly's got a big hand, and I'm sure his hand will be right up for that.
definitely involved, definitely.
And at that one in Puerto Rico, so that final one in 2024, I think I believe it's like 7 spots for the women and 5 for the men at that. Essentially, in that spots for nations who haven't already got their full quota, which is
Yeah.
2 people. So that's another, like, we'll know what the landscape looks like going into that a bit better, but that is another, that's another for sure chance for nations
Yeah.
like Britain.
With
There's a bunch of other countries, with a lot of people like change nations. So there's like Canadians and
yeah,
Italians and all this sort of stuff.
yeah, Aaron Brooks surfing for Canada and what is Adriano de Souza coaching Italy and stuff.
And
But,
Jesse Fernandez, he
oh
switched
yeah,
it.
of course, yeah, yeah, yeah,
That sort of went under the radar, but that was one of the standouts of our sort of team placing last year was that we finished higher than we all felt we could have gone higher, but we finished higher than the Italian team, which they had a strong team, very
yeah,
good coaching setup. Yeah, I was pretty pumped on that one.
yeah. That's sick. Am I right in thinking because of like other Olympic sports, France don't need to qualify because being the host nation?
They get a spot as home nation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They've got
Yeah.
one spot, and essentially, the basics are each nation's allowed 2, but there's because of that the results from last year, the highest team at last year get potentially an extra spot, and the highest team at next year is potentially get an extra spot also.
Yeah. 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 So France should be putting Carly Vast straight into Chopu.
And those spots they get to choose them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So with that, how like has it played on your mind? And I'm sure it has. That potentially, like, let's just say, let's manifest it and be positive. You could have 2 spots at Chopu, and I'm pretty certain, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty certain Stan and Luke and Pat haven't had much experience surfing a wave like Chopes.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the exciting things about this Olympics is I think that's a valid point for a bunch of people.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
reality is we would, when one of ours qualifies, then we'll look to get that experience in as soon as we can.
Yeah. I'd be like, yeah, I've qualified, but I don't want to go. It's like 12-foot chopes.
That's why you're not on the team, though, Matt.
That's the only reason.
Like, I know all those 3 guys you mentioned for sure they're gonna go.
Yeah, yeah. It's like no, it's a sick opportunity because for to go to Chopes, it's not an easy thing, and it's not somewhere you can just rock up and be like, yeah, sweet, I'm paddling out. So
No,
it's a,
and it's like expensive, that's
yeah,
like yeah.
yeah. No, that's cool. Like it's something that went through my mind. It was like, yeah, you qualify, you celebrate qualification in El Salvador, and then it goes through your head that you got like potential takeoff at like a 10-foot Chopes bomb. You just like um just
It's pretty exciting, isn't it? And I think
yeah,
from an Olympic perspective as well, like it's very different than if the wave is at like trestles or something. So there is an element of, like essentially charging,
yeah. Like
getting a
people
crazy one to get a 10, you can do that, but it's a very different skill set to get like a 10 at trestles or someone like that.
yeah, or like what it was in Japan. I mean,
Yeah.
in Japan, like the main thing I watched, or the main thing that I kind of when I was watching Japan is was that I was like, I'm enjoying this, but no one else would, like unless you're a surfer. And the main thing about the Olympics that I love is like suddenly I'm watching curling or I'm watching like someone skiing with a shotgun on his back and stuff. And that's what I want. That's what like I think surfing needs and wants, and that's what I think Chopu will give because no doubt I reckon my mum would sit down and watch Chopes, and because there's a element of danger, like a big element of danger, um, and it's not quite as hard to understand. Like it is literally if whoever gets as deep and as barreled as possible is gonna win kind of thing. So I think Chopes is a real good pick for the venue. Um, yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be super interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. And in little things like there's not going to be like a clash because of the time zone. There's not going to be like a clash with the 100 meters final or anything like that. Essentially, when Europe's all kind of finishing up for the day, Tahiti's going to be kicking off.
Yeah,
Little things like that, which yeah, make a difference. And even if it's not like massive and scary and death defying, it's sort of beautiful, isn't it? And just
yeah.
looks sort of glorious. And I would have thought very easy to produce something that, yeah, looks entertaining.
Yeah, definitely. I think like yeah, like I completely agree. It's got what a non-surfer imagines surfing to be like. It's a paradise island, like crystal blue waters. It's super cool how they'll have or they should have all like the boats in the channel, so you get a really good perspective of it as well. Um, so no, it's something that I'm buzzing. I think that I've got like all my like hopes with Team GB. I think there's some real talent. Like I spent a weekend with Pat in Portugal, and like comp wise, he's got so much talent. Like he's so solid on his feet. He like barely fell across 4 days. Um, I've seen Stan surf loads. I think Stan's got in his locker. He's is as good as anyone. Like he can really push people. Like I think Alice is a super good talent. Her I've never met her, but her mentality seems to be just really up there. So and like obviously Lucy and Luke are just so generally so consistent and stuff. So and I think Luke done well in El Salvador last time, didn't he? He was it El
Yeah,
Salvador?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, and he's got
Oh,
like they got like Luke and Stan both had like sort of big scores from some heats in El Salvador. So there's
yeah.
little stuff like that from your backstory that you take into these events from confidence wise. Like Luke at that last one in California as well. I had a bunch of like big scoring
Oh, that was
heats.
it. Sorry,
He
that's the
knows, he
California
knows
one I was
what he's
thinking of.
he knows what he's doing. And yeah, to pick up on what you're saying, like that crew that are good, but also honestly a little nod to some of the crew that didn't make it. This one,
Mm.
some of the other camps we've done. Um, there are a lot of crew training hard and working hard, and that absolutely rubs off on like everyone.
Yeah.
Um, and the Olympic thing, I think, does help. So, we'll be stepping on the plane, and for the last few weeks and months, they've all these surfers, they do know that that's a possibility. They do know that that's the potential. So they're not going
Yeah.
to lazy. They're not going to miss a gym session or like, not focus on certain things. It's a real, they do have a chance. It's a big chance. And what a great sort of opportunity from a sports perspective to have that and to try
Yeah.
and make that a reality.
And it's sick to think that, like, what, 5 years ago, or not even that, 4 years ago, this wasn't even a discussion before surfing was in the Olympics. So it's even amazing that, like these people like Lucy and Alice and Pat and Stan and Luke and the team and everyone else out there on other teams, they are, they're trailblazers because it's only been done once before, and every time you do it, something else is going to be learned, something else is going to be discovered. The one question I've been asked quite a lot just since the team got announced, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here.
Thank you.
But because I think I know the answer and I think I fully understand the answer, but people have asked how and why Lucas isn't in it. Obviously, won at Bells and is like a phenomenal talent. Um, so how do you,
Yeah.
yeah,
What'll I say? I'm probably going to give a political answer. He did really good on the selection camp in France, and he's going toe to toe with the guys, with the adults, but just a bit under this time, I guess. And
yeah,
he's got a lot of time in his locker,
that's what I
but
was thinking.
there's nothing going wrong with Lucas. There's no negative from my perspective to him not being selected for this one.
Yeah. No, that's kind of like the answer I expected, and what I've been saying to people is like he's a kid. Me and Darren on a podcast a couple of weeks ago was discussing whether the WSL should have an age limit, and actually kind of Darren argues that it definitely should. And I know Lucas quite well, I know Ben really well, and like he's a solid kid, but he's still young, and you know, he, like there's a,
Yeah,
there's a
yeah, absolutely, man. He's got time. He is young, but he was there on merit, like on that selection camp. It wasn't like, oh,
yeah.
let's filter in a like our best performing junior. That's not sort of how he's measured on that one. And yeah, it's all going really, really well for him. And then he backed that up with had a really good result in the WSL Pro Junior.
Yeah,
Yeah, so Lucas is tracking really well.
he's probably making your job harder, but in a good way. Like if you've got to pick three, and Pat's the highest ranked guy on the qualifying, and Luke wins the British for like the fourth time in a row, and Stan flares, and I saw clips of France, and I thought Stan was surfing really, really sharply, and then you've got Lucas doing everything he's doing. It's a good position and a hard position to be in, but you'd
No,
rather that than
definitely. And like, Aaron Strong was there as well, as was Barnaby
yeah.
Cox, and they're both like brilliant surfers as well. And there's like really good surfers who didn't quite make this team, who've been
Mm,
active, like Seth Morris, Logan Nickel, to name a
yeah,
couple. So yeah, that's sort of what I was meaning earlier. Like, they all are part of the reason why the ones
definitely.
that are doing well.
And I think there's a really cool, like, competitive, but I feel like a togetherness. Like they all want to be in the team, and they all want to like beat each other, but they also, they like Pat and Logan were on the trip to me in Portugal, and they're like they're literally complimenting each other, they're criticizing each other, but in a constructive way. I know that they surf quite a lot and speak quite a lot with like the whole other team, and I know Pat surfs a lot with Alice, and even though it's a bit of a spread team, they definitely have a strong camaraderie between them as well, which is only going to push them and also help bring younger surfers in as well.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a good outlet, obviously, on the WSL for that. And now it's like regionalized. It's a little bit easier to do.
Mm,
That is one of my kind of hopes, I guess, that that maintains that sort of steady stream onto WSL, and yeah, the results and the performances of that bunch. It gets that sort of prominence that filters through and leaches into the juniors.
mm.
They then see that level and want to do that. And
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think it's got every chance to as well. And it's again why these people are just leading that charge and pushing that barrier higher and higher to open those doors for people. So it's all positive what they're doing as well. Um, I just wanted to touch on it as well because I think it's all solved now. But how is it when you hear that they've flown out there and their boards go missing?
yeah, so like Pat, Luke, and Lucy went a few days early, and yeah, essentially their boards didn't arrive straight away. But that's yeah, it's all
Oh,
good. They got their boards and stuff now.
they've got them now. I'd have been panicking. You'd be like, "This is all I need right now."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the logistics that go into these events, and the cost and everything is pretty substantial. But
Yeah,
yeah, we try to get it right. You know, we're staying in a good place. We've got real good staff. Um, so yeah, get everything in place so that the surfers have just got to focus on what they got to do, and we support them how best they need. You know.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's cool. And they're right on the comp bank, aren't they? I always forget the name of the wave, but it's the left.
Yeah, so there's two. There's like El Sunzal and La Bacana. El
That's it.
Sunzal is the big long right.
Yeah,
And I haven't actually been there, but essentially these events are so big that they have to run like double banks, double peaks,
yeah,
pound it out. And they need locations which they can do that. Like kind of doesn't matter what the tide is. There's contestable waves. And then my kind of understanding is that once things have been filtered down a bit and they've got a bit more room to breathe, it's more the peak, the like more high performancey close in, predominantly left, where
yeah,
they try to do stuff. But there's a chance that one, if the swell's super solid, gets a little big, whereas the right sort of never gets too big.
yeah, yeah. But
But
again, like you
definitely
say,
big
that
challenges, and it's super hot, really hot water, pretty yeah, pretty different than springtime UK.
yeah, half of them have just about taken their boots and gloves off, and now they're just going to be like boardies and sunscreen head to toe.
Yeah, yeah. But
Can't,
they're pretty used to that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's
yeah,
definitely some of the things we've been trying to cover, and getting the right inputs into them for traveling and the jet lag and all that sort of stuff, trying to tick everything off.
yeah, and it's kind of quite sensible why they've gone early. You know, acclimatized to the time frame, the heat, the waves, and the temperature of the water and stuff like that. It's definitely
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
gives you time if they want decide to lose your boards that they can then tie it up after.
yeah, exactly,
So
exactly.
you're heading out there Thursday.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
there Thursday, the rest of the team, and then there's like myself, Gwen Spurlock, she's like the pathway development lead. We've got Llewellyn Whitaker, again, as like coach, and Michael Pellegrino, who is our sort of S&C fixer guy at the events.
Yeah. And so you land, and then how long is it until it kicks off?
We have like 4 full days, and then there's a opening ceremony day, which sometimes they use that as well. So I think
Okay, yeah.
potentially the first day is the 30th,
Yeah.
like maybe like a week today, week Tuesday. Um,
Okay.
and then once it's on, it's bang, 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 pretty rapid fire.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you sort of touched on it earlier, but essentially there's in the main round, like if you it's 4-person heats, top 2 go through, and there's like 7 rounds of that. But at any point you can lose like once and drop down to the reps division. And
Yeah.
if you're in the rep charge, I think there's like 13 heats to get to the final. So
it's long.
it's a lot of surfing. And yeah, if you get on a roll, it's a good roll. It's a long roll. It's a big roll. There's a lot of waves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that the replicharge thing is still something I'm still trying to work out and get my head around. It's just like I kind of just focus on, right, did you win? Right, okay, yeah, you're through. Right, you lost, but it's the only time you lost. Okay, and then go from there.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a bit like that. You can essentially lose once at any
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Oh,
Which is
easy.
good. It is good. It is a good system. It works well, I think, for these sort of
I think it works
big events.
once you can like follow it, and once you almost like simplify it, it definitely works. So yeah, easy. Well, I won't take up any more time of your
No,
sunny
that's cool,
day,
man.
but thanks so much. Obviously, good luck to yourself and the whole team. You know that we'll be absolutely frothing for you, calling it on. And
Yeah, so let's make sure you got the right links for the live feed and all that sort of stuff once up and running. Because all of that sort of things, like
yeah,
the DMs that like the team get, it does make a difference. Like I have,
yeah,
at these events and you see them getting the messages off people like good luck and all that sort of stuff, man. Keep the good
yeah.
vibes going.
I'll message them all saying, "Don't let the country down." Do the opposite. No, no,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, send us the links and we'll post it out so everyone else can watch it as well. And maybe we'll have a chat when you're back about how it went, and and hopefully we're talking about a very, very successful trip.
absolutely, man. Super keen.
Legend.
Nice
Have a
one,
sick day,
dude.
bud. Take
Have a
care.
good day. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.